everyone, good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's a beautiful Saturday. Yes, it's a different day. We are here on Saturday opening Middletowns History Vault with the Middletown Area Historical Society. And today is a very special day. Today we are reopening the Middletown Historical Society Museum. And it's great to have it open. Now, it is social distance. We do ask that you wear a mask if you stop on by. So the museum is open today for a special exhibit. It opens the Middletown Volunteer Fire Department exhibit that is currently on display. And today we're actually going to have Mr. Whelan, who is a firefighter historian. He worked with the fire department for many years. He's actually going to give today's presentation and go over all about Middletown Volunteer Fire Department and discuss some of the artifacts that are inside today. You can see the Bluebird behind me here. This is one of the old engines that Middletown ran many years ago, and it's now just used for parades and for on display at shows and such. So for the video purposes, I'm not going to have a mask on, and neither is Mr. Whelan. But the masks are normally in the building, are required. The museum is also going to be open up on Wednesday mornings. I believe it is like a 9:30 to 12:30 every day, and by appointment. You can reach out to us through Facebook, through this post or any other Facebook message, and ask us for a special meeting. We have volunteers that are ready to come up here pretty much any time that you need to fit your schedule, because we'd love you to just stop in and check out the history of the Middletown Volunteer Fire Department, as well as all the other great history that Middletown has to offer. So guys, we're going to walk up the street, go in the door, and we're going to talk to Mr. Whelan today about the Middletown Fire Department. I'm going to spin this camera around. See the Bluebird engine. Pretty cool apparatus. We can take a peek at the inside here. They got the doors open. Stop on down. You can take a look at this yourself. If you have children, I'm sure they would let you let them sit up inside here and feel like a fireman for a few minutes. So let's head on down. Again, the museum is open. Officially now back open, and we're open today, and we're going to be open up on Wednesday mornings. Volunteers are here to talk to you about the great history of Middletown. And this is the entranceway to the museum. Come on in. Now the display is over here to the right side of the building, and going through here. And everybody, we'd like to introduce you to Mr. Jim Whelan. Mr. Whelan is a past firefighter and for Middletown. He's also a Middletown Fire Department historian. And all the artifacts that you see on display here in today's exhibit are contributions from the Middletown Fire Department, the Middletown Rescue Club, other past firefighters that have collected these. They're now historians as well that protect these great artifacts. So we'll start. Jim, if you could tell us about yourself and what your position was with the fire department, and then go through and tell us about the history from the beginning to the end, and if you want to point out what some of these artifacts are, that'd be great.
Certainly. Thanks, Michael. I joined the Sparkies at the Union Hose Company in 1958. In 1965, when I turned 18, I was eligible to become a firefighter. The artifacts that you see here today are things that we have collected over time in private collections and in the fire department. We go back to the founding of the borough in 1755, and it wasn't until 1827 that the first fire company was formed. It was the Union. So the first line of defense were leather buckets that, according to the Chronicles of Middletown, every home was supposed to have one on each floor. And if there was a fire, they responded to the area and they threw buckets of water. Another piece of history we have is the glass grenade, which was filled with several different products, the last being carbon tetrachloride, which is deadly. So they stopped making these in the early 1900s. The photographs and the newspaper clippings and the articles that we have date from somewhere in the late 1800s. We have a handwritten copy of the Union Hose Company's Constitution, pictures of apparatus from in the late 1800s into the early 1900s. One of the big questions in Middletown always was, why was there 3 fire companies? There was, in fact, there was actually 7 at one time, at different times. The Union Hose Company was formed and they changed their name in the late 1800s to the North Ward Hose Company, and then later they reorganized back as the Union Hose Company. There was a United States Engine Company in the lower part of the borough. They did not last too long. There was the Liberty and the Rescue obviously came along as the town grew. The reason that the 3 fire companies survived was in the early 1800s, or late 1800s into early 1900s, it was all hand-drawn equipment. So the members had to run from their home to the firehouse, get a hand-drawn piece of equipment, pull it as fast as they could to the fire, and then pull it back again. So it amounted to time and distance, because that's why until 2004, when we merged the 3 companies, there were 3 fire companies. We also have history on a fire company in Royalton, which kind of got lost in history, and that's a subject for another time. We have some archives here this is from the Rescue Hose Company. This helmet is dated 1888, which was when they were formed. This one has been well preserved. Another piece of history is the foreman's speaking trumpet. The foreman of the fire company was a very prestigious position, even more so than the fire chief, and he used this as a megaphone to shout orders to the members. This one is very detailed. This was from the Liberty Fire Company. It was an individual's name is on it, and it has an engravement which very closely matches the steamer that they purchased in 1863. The subject of the 1910 fire has always been a subject of Middletown history. Prior to that, in the late 1800s, there were also several large fires which quickly turned into a small conflagration. There was a furniture factory fire, and from what I can determine, the furniture factory was very close to the intersection of Emall and Wood Street. That burned, and it sets 4 houses on fire across the street. There was a call put out for the city of Harrisburg to respond for help, but by the time they got the apparatus loaded onto a railroad car to get it, Middletown canceled their request. There are several things here which are of significant note in history. This was taken from an original photograph of the Rescue Hose Company in 1888. In, again, a hand-drawn piece of equipment. You can see the helmet that the men are wearing is very closely resembles the one I showed you. We have some ribbons and some pamphlets from back in the early 1900s, and these were all donated by different members of our department. I would be remiss if I didn't mention earlier the Sparkies. The Sparkies were an organization that were formed by the National Fire Protection Association in Boston, and it was to be a similar group to the Boy Scouts, only in the lines of fire prevention and getting young boys interested in the fire service. It did not go over well. The interest just wasn't generated. And Middletown had 3 of them, one at the Union, one at the Liberty, and one at the Rescue. They were very active for about 6 or 8 years, and then it kind of fell off. The other notable piece of history is our 2 line of duty deaths, which we memorialized here. The first one was Harold Wise Mansberger, who drowned out at the old Iron Mine Run Dam in July of 1947. There was a boat that capsized, and him and a rescue party went out. Their boat capsized, and he drowned. And then our friend Pete Waple, who was killed in 1973 in a crash out on Route 230. Well, we've memorialized them here. Other miscellaneous items, we have bylaw books from the fire companies, the Firemen's Relief Association. There are the old street alarm box, and this calendar is from 1938, and it shows the location of the street alarm boxes, so the bells would toll in the firehouse to the matching number of the box when it was pulled. Another 2 or 3 other pieces of history is the dress parade uniforms that the men wore for parades and functional events. This one is from the Liberty. It has been very well preserved. This one is from the Union Hose Company, and unfortunately we don't have the rest of the uniform, and this has fallen into some disrepair. And the Rescue Hose Company, which most people will remember seeing them because they were the last company that actually took to the streets and paraded as a group. The time and circumstances, they were the last one to parade. We welcome anyone who wants to come and visit. We can talk through some more history. The Historical Society is also willing to open this up for special groups to come through in off hours. I will be happy to entertain them. And we look forward to the public coming to see us.
That's great, Mr. Whelan. Thank you for that. Can you give a little explanation of the time frame? Like, how old is our volunteer department here in the borough of Middletown?
Okay.
I believe it's roughly, we're close to 200 years old of volunteer service.
Right. The Union Hose Company was formed in 1827, and hopefully in 2027 we will have some type of a celebration. The Liberty came along in 1874, the Rescue in 1888. And like I said, there was some intermixing of some other organizations in there for one reason or another. Again, history, I will say this, history of the fire department is hard in Middletown to find. There is speculation that when the Liberty moved into the new station, there was some archives that were inadvertently destroyed. The flood of 72 took borough records that we could research. The flood of 72 also took personal records that people had in their homes, and they just wound up on a pile on the curb. So we're really dependent on newspaper clippings. Fellow archivists at the Pennsylvania Fire Museum in Harrisburg have found information for us. So this is a work in progress. We intend to continue this even after the display is put away, to continue it and try to chronicleize some of it in written form. There is a small history now that is available. There's copies in the library, but now that we have access to newspapers.com, we can find out a lot more about fire in Middletown.
So really anybody that may see this video and of the 3,000 to 4,000 people that eventually see these videos over time, if you have any connection or know of a relative or family member that may have been connected to the Middletown Volunteer Fire Department and they have a piece of that history and you're willing to share that, even if it's a matter of getting a photocopy of it or taking a picture of an item if you don't wish to donate it to these men that are preserving this history, it would be greatly appreciated to help keep connecting these dots of some 200 years of volunteer firefighting here in Middletown. Now, currently, I believe we're Station 88.
Yes.
Is our singular combined joint unit, and they joined in what year? They combined all three?
2004.
2004. Three departments became one joint unit.
Right.
And how many men do we currently, and women, do we currently have volunteering?
About the people that are doing the emergency responding and the administrative, there's about 45 people right now that are active.
That's great. And Middletown was just noted for having a live-in program,
yes.
I believe. We
yes.
offer a program where they train young men and women to protect the people of Middletown and respond to emergency calls, and they have an opportunity to live in our upgraded fire station
yes.
here in the borough, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's great. Well, Mr. Will, I appreciate your time and all the efforts you and the other men and women of Middletown put together to preserve these artifacts and present them. We're just so grateful and appreciative for you to present those artifacts to the people of Middletown.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to conclude today's historical video, opening Middletown's History Vault. I say this every week, guys. If you want to help collect, preserve, and teach the great history of Middletown, Pennsylvania, and the surrounding area, just like all these fire pieces you see here, this takes time, it takes effort, it takes money. The Historical Society is a nonprofit organization, so consider making a contribution. 29 East Main Street, Middletown, Pennsylvania, 17057. They are a nonprofit organization, so it's tax deductible. And if you want to come see this amazing display, 29 East Main Street, Middletown, right off the square, across from 7-Eleven, stop on in, guys. It's going to be up. If you can't make it today or during one of the Wednesday hours, please ask us, and we'll be happy to get this museum open so that you can check out all these great artifacts. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next weekend. Take care.